Hi, my name's Pat McCabery. This is the second in a series of videos about editing video on tape, like in the good old days. Today's episode, we're going to talk about tape formats of the day and how the information is laid out on the tape, and that's going to make a difference later when we get down to actually editing a video on tape like we used to. I have sitting around me all the different tape formats that we used in my studio down through the years. There certainly were some others out there, but these are the ones that we ended up using. We chose to use Super VHS as our tapes to capture and edit on in the day, not because that's what we really wanted, but it's all that we could afford. A Betacam and all that other good analog stuff was far too expensive for us. So we started with Super VHS, which looks just like regular VHS, but it is supposedly a higher quality tape, and it does record the signal in a different way in there. This is just a regular VHS tape. There also was VHS-C, which was the compact VHS tapes. And so you could put these into an adapter and play them in a regular VHS player. Contrary to popular belief, there was no such adapter to take 8mm tapes and put them into a VHS tape deck and make them play, because these are actually a different size of tape. And ultimately, in the end, for mastering our projects, we were able to move up to Betacam. And so this is sort of the ultimate broadcast analog tape format of the time. This is based on the old Beta tape cassettes in the old VHS Beta tape war days. However, it recorded the media completely differently. This would have been a 2-hour tape for recording your home movies on a Beta VCR. It would only get a half an hour's worth of video on one of these things. But this was the good stuff. This is what the industry was built on. It was just way too expensive for us to deal with until much later when they came out with some cheaper decks. And even that was kind of crazy. And then this was a bigger Betacam tape, so you can get up to 90 minutes on one of those and then eventually we moved on to digital. So this is DV-Cam. Panasonic had DVC Pro, which is essentially the same thing. And then that also went along with little mini DV tapes. So these are a similar signal, recorded slightly different. You could use these tapes in the decks that played these, but not vice versa. So anyway, those were sort of the tape formats that we used down through time. You may remember the audio cassette tape. Pretty simple system. It just took a tape and drug it across some heads that either recorded or played the material that was recorded magnetically onto that tape. And that worked great for audio because there wasn't that much information going on. For video, there's just so much more information that it couldn't be written on the tape in just that linear drag it across method. Video is actually recorded with a helical scan method where the heads that are recording the information onto the tape are swiping across the tape so that they can get a lot more surface area on that tape to store the information. And then along with that also is a control track, and then there's some linear audio tracks on there also. In Super VHS there was also audio embedded into the video signal also, so you could have 4 tracks of audio to work with. Sort of. Also in there, timecode information had to be recorded, and that put a number on every frame of video so you could go back and find something that you were looking for later. For Super VHS, that was an optional item, and we never had the money to be able to afford that. So if you wanted to find a particular spot in a tape that you had logged, you'd have to rewind the tape all the way to 0 and reset the timer and play it back out again, and hopefully you could find what you were looking for. There were 2 types of timecode. There's linear timecode, and that actually used one of the audio tracks to record timecode, so there went one of your audio tracks to work with. There was also vertical interval timecode that was recorded as part of the video signal. More modern tape, like Betacam, had timecode built in as just part of the process, as did any of the digital tapes, always had that there. So that made life a lot easier for logging tapes and finding where your shots were someplace hiding in there. Thanks for putting up with that really exciting history on different tape formats and how the information gets written onto the tape, but it will make a difference later when we get down to actually editing so that you can see why we had to do some of the things we had to do to get the job done. Thanks so much. We'll see you at the next episode.